students. Hope you're doing well and also completing your previous lesson work. As we start a new chapter, weather and climate, we are moving towards a third topic of the chapter, that is climate and its types. Okay, before starting the chapter or new topic, we'll recap the previous. The elements of weather, the types of rainfall, how can we measure temperature? That is the previous lesson. In previous lesson, we studied about all these things. So elements of weather, the elements of weather which we studied in this chapter is the temperature, air pressure, wind and rainfall. But if we list up the elements of weather, we have temperature, air pressure, wind direction, wind strength, rainfall, humidity, sunshine and cloud cover. Okay, the instruments which we use to measure these elements are thermometer, barometer, wind vane and anemometer. To measure the temperature we use thermometer, to measure the air pressure we used barometer, and to measure the wind vane we use anemometer. Then we studied about the types of rainfall and how we are able to measure the temperature. We have three types of rainfall: relief, convectional and frontal. And the formula which we use to measure the daily temperature, average daily temperature and the total monthly rainfall or temperature, we use first in to find out the daily temperature, we use the formula maximum minus minimum, and when we find out the average daily temperature, we use maximum plus minimum divided by 2, and to calculate the total monthly rainfall and the temperature, we use total daily temperature for a month and the number of days in the month. Okay, let's start with the today's topic. We studied about the world climate. As you people know, we have, if we move towards the class 6s, you already studied about the different regions in the world. You studied about the different vegetation all over the world: tropical rainforest, coniferous rainforest, desert vegetation, coastal areas vegetation. So all this vegetation is related to the climatic conditions. So all over the world, we have different types of climatic conditions. The objectives of today's lesson are to define climate and its types, identify the elements of climate and the factors which determine them, identify climatic zones on the world map, and explain some of the reasons for differences in climate. That why we have differences in climate all. First of all, just go through the definition of climate. That climate is the average condition of the weather over many years. And the types of climate throughout the world is depend on the latitudinal position, equatorial position, and the change in the day and light formation. Basically, it relates to the movement of the sun, the rotation and the revolution of the earth. When the earth completes its one cycle around the sunlight, around the sun. So we have the change in day and night, we have change in seasons, we have change in time. Climatic zones of the world. We have 1, 2, 3 and 4 climatic zones all over the world. We have tropics, temperate zones and polar regions. All these zones are directly related to the latitudes and longitudes. The degrees of equator is the 0 degree. Then we move towards the upwards. We have Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of Cancer, which located at 25 and a half degrees latitude. And the Pakistan is located at 23 and a half degrees. So you must go through the latitudes and longitudes of the different regions of the world. Okay, how many types of climate we have? We have 5 major types of climate, 5 minor types of climate. Major one, the hot and cold climate, but when we divide according to the regions, according to the zones, we have tropical zones, tropical climate areas, dry areas, temperate areas, continental and polar regions. Tropical near to the equator, dry above the at the 40 degrees latitude and in between the 20 degrees latitude, temperate above the 23.5 degree, and the areas close to the, it basically it relates to the temperate grasslands, continental areas located at the continents, and polar regions, south pole and north pole. Okay, before understanding the different world distribution of the moderate hot and cold climate, you go through the world map. We have 4 oceans and 7 continents: North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and Antarctic Ocean and Arctic Ocean also. This is the exact climatic regions, the Köppen classification for the climatic distribution all over the world. We have tropical areas. First of all, you have to go through the key, that what the key shows. The different color in the key shows the different regions who have different climatic conditions. The areas who are located at the equator, the areas who are located above the equator in the tropical zones, then at the temperate zones, then we move towards the polar regions. We have 0 degrees, 23.5 degrees, then 66.5 degrees, and then we move towards the 90 degrees North Pole. The factors, the reasons which are responsible for the difference in climate are the latitude, altitude, proximity of the sea, means distance from the sea, and the currents, the ocean currents, the small rivers which flow in the ocean. So the latitude, that how the latitudes affect the change in climatic regions. That latitude shows the temperature, means that different latitudes pass through a greater thickness of the earth atmosphere. It covers the larger area. The distance of the places from the equator, that shows the fluctuation in the temperature. Then we altitude, when we move towards the higher areas, we have drop down in the temperature. A very good example, when we move towards the northern areas, to the Gilgit, to Islamabad, to Murray, we have decline in the temperature. The temperature goes to the minimum level. But when we move towards the Punjab, to the central Punjab and to the southern parts of Punjab, the temperature gets higher. So that shows the height, altitude. The climatic conditions are also related to the altitude. Proximity of the sea, and it means the distance from the sea. It basically relates to the land breeze and sea breeze. When the wind move from the land area to sea area, we have a change in climate. When land breezes moves from sea to land and land to sea, they always brings a different change in climate. And also the proximity of the sea related to the coastal areas, continental shelf. And the currents, we have two types of currents in the sea: cold current and warm current. Warm current moves to the area of cold areas, and cold current moves to the areas of warm. I am attaching a YouTube links which are helpful. These are the videos which are helpful to understand the different zones of the world, the different classification of the Köppen climate and the types of climate.